A new survey shared exclusively with Good Morning Britain has laid bare the misogyny children see at school, with 1 in 5 9 to 13-year-olds seeing sexualised messages on phones at least once a week.
Yeah, while they're at school, and it comes after the hit drama Adolescence kicked off that national discussion about misogyny in classrooms and at home, and the rise of toxic online influencers like Andrew Tate. We went to a school in Hertfordshire to hear firsthand from students about what they have seen and heard.
The stuff that is said is very, just not needed and very rude. They'll comment about each other's body, they'll say, names and stuff like their appearance.
They would, rate a particular person and be like, oh, this one's, I don't know, 5 out of 10. And they do a lot of, kiss, marry, kill, but they turned it into something worse, which is just more objectification.
They might have seen that online, or they think, oh, if they're doing that, I'll do that too because it looks fun, and they're laughing about it, so I might have a laugh as well.
Boys used to say, oh, girls can't do nothing, and I feel like, yeah, it was really wrong.
I'm lucky with my friends, they don't do too much of that, but you still hear the odd comment from other people.
I think some people genuinely don't know that what they're saying is actually as serious as what they think it is.
The government need to put more restrictions in place on what's posted on social media, and also that schools need to teach young kids about it more.
We can speak to Shea, a documentary filmmaker who's met Andrew Tate a number of times, and Katharine Birbalsingh, who's been dubbed Britain's strictest head teacher.
Morning to you both.
Can we start with the diagnosis? Katharine, you've got kind of huge experience and very public views about not having mobile phones in schools, about stopping kids under 16 using social media. But on the problem which we're discussing here, I speak to lots of heads and teachers who say that over the last 10, 15, 20 years, there has been a change, that the attitude that boys express about girls has changed, whether that's in English literature, talking about books, or whether it's in the classroom or on social media. Something's changed, and that there is more aggression, misogyny amongst some boys and young men towards women. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. And of course, the source of that problem is the online activity, which is why I've been campaigning for so long for, it's not just not to have phones in schools, it's to have them banned outright for children under the age of 16. There needs to be a conversation, a national conversation. Government isn't having that conversation at the moment. Under 16, at least ban social media. I would prefer banning the smartphone altogether. Head teachers and parents need support. I speak to parents...
Just on the diagnosis, though, before we get to the solutions, what is happening? OK,
well, it's the stuff they're being exposed to online. So, violent rapes, horrible conversations that they have. Schools will often struggle with children taking nudes of themselves, photos, selfies, and then sending them out. Young girls they're put under pressure by a boy to send the photo, and then he shares it with his friends, and then they send it round everywhere. And the children... It's a sexualized world that is online, that they are exposed to. This is both boys and girls. And they're just children. Yeah. We as adults need to take responsibility. And I want to say that we have a March for Children on Sunday the 18th of May, Whitehall, 2 p.m, for everyone to come down and for children, because we want a conversation about these smartphones. We're against the schools bill because it will lower standards in schools, and the behaviour hubs that they are abolishing. Behaviour in schools matter, and that all... Look, my whole life has been about children, and I have seen, in the day, the worst was MTV Base. You wanted them to get off MTV Base. Nowadays, they're unable... I mean, we're talking about the misogyny. Just think about the ways in which their brains are broken by the constant flashing images, they get addicted. And then what happens? I was just speaking to one of your lovely makeup women back there, and she was saying to me she has a 2- and a 4-year-old, and she gives them her phone sometimes. She doesn't realise that eventually her children will be addicted to that. And then, by the time the parents realise there's a problem, they're in their teens, but they're so badly addicted to these phones and to unsupervised access to the internet, parents then can't do anything about it.
You're right, and I'm sure there will be parents nodding their heads in agreement with you, because, I mean, I'm addicted to my phone, and if I'm addicted to my phone knowing everything that's on it and knowing how bad it is for my concentration and my mood, we can only imagine what it's doing to children of school age when they're so impressionable.
Exactly.
I wonder if I can ask you, Matt Shea, because you did the documentary The Dangerous Rise of Andrew Tate. And I wonder whether there's lots of parents. We've heard about the reference to Andrew Tate in the huge Netflix drama Adolescence. People hear about Andrew Tate, parents hear about him, might not want to go and seek out what he's done, what he's accused of. But what influence do you think he's genuinely having on young boys and girls?
We're always a step behind what our children and our nephews are seeing, right? And they had been watching Andrew Tate for a long time before the public became aware of him. At one point in this country, over half of Gen Z men and boys had a positive view of Andrew Tate, with similar statistics all around the world, and that number goes higher when you go a little bit younger. It's almost impossible to overstate the influence he's had.
What is appealing about him? Because I will say, when I've seen little clips, because I tend to be on kind of wellness and how to stay fit and healthy, I'll get little clips of him saying, be disciplined, you know, have a good diet. And so I can't see the negative stuff because I'm not in that algorithm. Right. But if I went into a different algorithm, what would I see?
So, when you're a young boy, especially in school, that environment is rife with jealousy of other men. It's a very competitive environment. Andrew Tate speaks directly to those young men. He gets them to double down on their insecurities. He says, no, you are weak. Other men are more successful than you. Oh. And the only way that you can get women, you can get rich, is to compete with those other men. Don't listen to your teachers because they're lying to you. They don't want you to know the truth. Don't listen to your parents. Don't listen to your therapist. Ditch your friends if they don't get on board with this, right? And instead, buy my courses, of course, and it is all about personal enrichment for him. And if you go into those courses, and I've been in them, you know, they are essentially teaching young boys, some very young, to ditch, you know, their parents, their teachers, and to buy into this extremist, misogynist worldview where you're constantly competing with other men for women, for resources, for you know, physical prowess.
Matt, your accusation is that Andrew Tate propagates violence, misogyny, control. He, of course, disputes that. And I'm just going to read to you what his spokesperson said, and we'll see how you respond. A spokesperson for Andrew Tate said, Matt Shea is trying to make a name for himself by repeatedly lying about Andrew Tate, and he will be sued for defamation shortly. Anyone who has followed his career knows these are libelous lies from a failing journalist.
OK, well, I'll respond directly to you, Andrew, if you're watching this from the beach club in Dubai. First of all, it's not defamation if it's true. Second of all, to defame someone's good reputation, they sort of have to have one in the first place. And I genuinely can't think of someone alive today who has a worse reputation than you. And third of all, this is just an intimidation tactic. You're scared of journalists like us and of the media because we give a platform to your alleged victims and we hold you to account. We're not afraid. I'm not afraid. And your alleged victims are also not afraid.
Well, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because he is quoted as saying himself that he is absolutely a misogynist. That's a quote from Andrew Tate.
You're defaming yourself. You know?
There's a lot of extreme language that has been pinned on him, and of course, he is accused of acts which he denies. Katharine, do you see a direct link between his content and the behaviour of children that you're trying to combat?
Well, I'm certain there will be, obviously. He is part of the online world that I so fear when it comes to our children. And the influences of, you know, how to think of women and how... Our girls, when I think of the girls out there, they're having to pout their lips and stick their bottoms out and put makeup on and make themselves look so much older than they actually are in order to feel as if they're attractive. Can
I just ask one other thing to you? Because you deal with impressionable children, girls, boys, all the time. And saying that there's a massive problem of misogyny in schools and sort of telling boys that it's their problem, I wonder if that's not part of the solution, because boys may, particularly at that age, retreat further into that world.
I agree.
So what is the message we should be sending out to boys and girls?
Right. Well, as I said, the anti-smartphone position,
Yes.
which I tell you, if you were to come to see our school, Michaela, in Wembley, where we not only just ban phones and the children don't have access to it, we are constantly talking down being online, social media, exposing yourself to these sorts of things. And we strongly encourage parents not to give their children phones.
Can I ask you, just on that particular thing, Katharine, because Richard emailed in, Nels Abbey earlier said that he takes that approach. His daughter is not having a mobile phone. Yes. Richard said, I would love to follow and not give my children a smartphone, but I worry about how they will be bullied and singled out because of it. I mean, can parents do this on their own?
Yes, they can. So parents, listen to me. The fact is that you need to hold the line on this, and you will save your children's lives by keeping the smartphone away from them. The bullying is going to happen online and you won't know about it. The problem is that there's a whole world that your children enter into, and as parents, you don't realise. Your children go up to their bedroom, they're quietly on their phones, you think everything's fine. It's not fine. They're being exposed to material that is just so dangerous. And so, yes, there is the fear of missing out, and I get that. And parents worry that if it's always online that the children are talking, is their child being left out?
And that's why you'd like the government to take action.
That's right. And head teachers are trying to take action.
Yeah.
And when head teachers do, the school is able to take control in that
And also
sense.
it becomes a community endeavour,
Exactly.
doesn't it?
And then there's no fear of missing
out. But head
out.
teachers can't police bedrooms at 8 at night.
Exactly.
Matt,
that is exactly.
I wonder, obviously you have been entrenched in this world. What are the positive influences that you think parents or children could be directed to make them better?
There are loads of positive male role models out there. You know, it's easy to find them. You know, there's tons of them. The problem is that those male role models aren't afforded the same platform that controversial ones are on social media. The algorithm favours controversial content.
Maybe social media companies should counteract so that your algorithm, if it becomes a very negative one, should always be counteracted with something positive.
The social media companies are doing the opposite of that.
That's exactly it.
Because they get more clicks from
because
the
they're making money
misogyny
out
and
of
the
our
violence.
children. We've got to remember that.
Matt, final word to you.
We're putting this problem on the desks of teachers. Why are we doing that? If
social media and government have got to sort this out.
Yeah.
Thank you both. Fascinating, and I know it's such a massive problem for us as parents, but as us as individuals as well.
We're being shouted at to move on because we've got other things to do, but we want to keep talking about this because it's so.
But we did ask you:
important.
should parents stop their children from having a mobile phone at all until they're 16? And 60% of you said yes. But 40% said no, although a number of people have said, well, maybe let them have a phone, but make sure it's a brick phone, or make them have a phone, but make sure that they don't go on the apps,